Thank you for joining me for this review and commentary on How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Today we're reviewing Chapter 5, which I just finished reading and posting here to the YouTube site. And Chapter 5 is it's the second chapter within Part 2. And just as a reminder really quick, Part 2, what that is, the title of Part 2 is 6 Ways to Make People Like You. And we covered principle number 2, smile. And I just want to give you a really quick reminder of why I'm reading this book. I've only read this book halfway through, over a dozen times. And I love it so much I just keep rereading it and rereading it. There's so many great principles that I've been able to apply to my personal life and professional life that I think are really beneficial, but I've always really wanted to finish the entire book. So I'm using this exercise on the YouTube channel to be able to read this out loud, and which requires me to read it in advance afterwards to prepare these commentaries, etc. And so, yeah, it's benefiting me, but I'm really hoping it ultimately benefits you. So let's go ahead and get started here. So this chapter starts off with the title, A Simple Way to Make a Good First Impression. In the beginning, Mr. Carnegie talks about a woman who got really rich and completely changed her wardrobe, but she did nothing about her face. He says it radiated sourness and selfishness. And then he goes on to say that she didn't realize what everyone knows, namely that the expression one wears on one's face is far more important than the clothes one wears on one's back. Mr. Carnegie likes to talk about stories about Charles Schwab, and he brings out a really interesting quote from Charles Schwab that says, "Actions speak louder than words, and a smile says, 'I like you. You make me happy. I'm glad to see you.'" What do you guys think about that? Are you happy do you think it's creepy, or do you think it's great when you see someone walk into the office with a big smile, or someone at a fast food restaurant that greets you with a large smile? I'm happy to see someone with a smile, and it's very contagious. In the chapter, Mr. Carnegie also says a baby's smile has the same effect. And then he goes on to give a story about a doctor's waiting room. And typically, right, when you go to a doctor's waiting room, there's not a lot of happy faces around. Everyone's just kind of either dreading what's going to happen with the doctor, or they're just hating every moment waiting, because there's a lot of other things that they'd be rather doing at that moment. When have you recently been in a long wait for service, right? Was it at a cellular store, waiting to upgrade your phone or to ask an important question about fixing your phone? Was it a long line at a theme park? Were you waiting for a waiter or waitress to come over and take your order in a really busy lunch or dinner setting? I've been there, all of these recently. And I got to tell you, there's not a lot of people smiling when you're around you. And it just really adds to your own frustration and darkness. Mr. Carnegie mentions that an insincere grin doesn't fool anybody. We know it is mechanical, and we naturally resent it. He also provides a really interesting quote from a psychologist, James V. McConnell, who was from the University of Michigan. And he expressed his feelings about a smile. He said, "People who smile tend to manage, teach, and sell more effectively, and to raise happier children. There's far more information in a smile than a frown. That's why encouragement is a much more effective teaching device than punishment." So there's kind of two interesting concepts there that Mr. Carnegie is talking about. So number one, having a smile will make you more effective to sell, work. Also help you to be happier raising children. right? And so in the end, he talks about the application of using smiles and actually teaching encouragement rather than punishment. So the two different concepts there. I would like your guys' feelings. What do you think about how not only you see the people around you when you go in to buy a car, buy a sandwich, order your food, but you yourself and what you do day to day, whether you are shopping for groceries or you're getting ready to make a big presentation in a meeting, or you're on the phone waiting to answer a request from a customer that you support in tech support, for example. Right? Do you find that on your end, when you smile, you tend to be able to solve issues, matters more effectively, more quickly? That's a question for you. This next part I want to read word for word from Mr. Carnegie's book. He says, the effect of a smile is powerful, even when it is unseen. Telephone companies throughout the United States have a program called Phone Power, which is offered to employees who use the telephone for selling their services or products. In this program, they suggest that you smile when talking on the phone. Your smile comes through in your voice. So I want to repeat that last sentence. Your smile comes through in your voice. I heard this before when I was interviewing for jobs, and I was told, stand up, because standing up is going to make you sound more confident, and smile as you're talking. Even though the other person cannot see it, it will come through in your voice. And I found some success in that. And I want to know, have any of you tried that before? Smiling on the phone? I mean, obviously you're smiling probably when you're hearing from a relative, son or daughter, aunt or uncle, mother or father. Have some funny stories on the phone, you're naturally going to be smiling and also probably laughing, which is going to let them know that you're smiling. But have you ever smiled and just know that the smile's coming through to the people that you're talking to on the other end of the phone? And then same vice versa. Have you ever kind of felt while you're talking to someone that they're smiling, and it gives you that kind of extra feeling that, hey, they actually care about me. They're trying to help me through this issue that I'm solving, right? I'm really talking about those hard issues when you're dealing with some customer service rep on getting answers to your home insurance or your bank account balance, or any kind of other troubleshooting issue that you have when you're talking to another person on the phone and hoping that they're helping you. But have you ever had that kind of experience where you can tell that they're smiling and it just comes through and you feel like, oh gosh, this person's doing everything in their power to help me out? I'd love to hear from you if you ever had experiences like that. And if you can attest to what Mr. Carnegie said, your smile comes through in your voice. What else do you know about smiles? Comment in the comment section. I would love to hear. Here's a couple of obvious things I was thinking, is that, there's no need for verbal communication. You can do it in a quiet setting. You can do it from a distance. You can do it in a crowd, like at a church or at a busy airport, or in an office across a few rows, right? A smile will transmit the exact feeling of joy and information that you want it to project without any kind of action except for that grin, the movement of your cheek muscles, right? So I want to try this challenge myself too, but I'd like to put a challenge out there to all of you, is that try to smile at someone at least an hour of each day. Throughout the day, however many hours you're up and you're out and about, or you're around people, right? 10 to 12 hours. Try 10 to 12 different times of smiling, and you will see something happen, right? Whether it be in yourself, in others, or a combination of both. And I would love to hear the results of your experiment. And if you don't want to share those results or that experience in the comment section, send me a mail. I think the mail link should be in the description of this channel, and I will read those as well. And with your permission, I'd like to share some of those in upcoming videos. Now we're coming up to the end here, so I do want to cover a quote at the end of the chapter and a comment that comes from Mr. Carnegie, where he's just really talking about how if you force yourself to smile, it's going to bring about emotion inside of you, right? That's going to make you happy. And he starts off by saying, you don't feel like smiling? Well, then what? Two things. First, force yourself to smile. If you're alone, force yourself to whistle or hum a tune or sing. Act as if you were already happy. And then that's going to tend to make you happy. And then the philosopher William James, he put it this way. He says, action seems to follow feeling, but really action and feeling go together. And by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling, which is not. I know that's a mouthful, but I think Carnegie sums it up very well when he says, happiness doesn't depend on outward conditions, it depends on inner conditions. So really making ourselves feel like we're happy, forcing it, it's going to naturally come along and we will be feeling joyful and happy. And it really comes down to having a different mental attitude. And I'm sure you've heard the glass being half empty versus half full. Mr. Carnegie in the chapter, if you listen to it, he talks about two different people being equally rich and having equal prestige, but one being potentially very miserable and the other one being potentially very happy. It really comes down to mental attitude. Have you ever had one of those moments where naturally you're feeling unhappy, but you force yourself to think positive thoughts and then you actually come out being happy? I mean, I know it's going to sound super simple, but I just had the moment where I was planning to take my family out to eat. I was getting all excited about what we were going to eat. We were going to have steak, we were going to have Mexican, we were going to go to Chinese or Japanese. And then at the last moment, my son says, no, I'm tired. I want to stay home and take a nap. And at first I was just like, gosh, dang it. I'm in a bad mood. I want to go out. I was looking forward to it. But then I forced myself to think positive thoughts, be happy that we're here. We'll just save the money for another day to go out. And then that gave me the positive attitude to actually do this video. So it was a positive outcome for me. Don't you think smiles are contagious? I mean, really, it's like yawning almost. If you smiled at someone, they're going to smile back most likely. There was an interesting Chinese proverb that Carnegie brings up in this chapter, and he says that this is how it goes. It's like this: a man without a smiling face must not open a shop. Then he provides a really interesting segue into an advertisement that a department store in New York had put up years ago during Christmas time. And I'm going to read this to you and then I'm going to conclude. The name of the poster was titled, "The Value of a Smile at Christmas. It costs nothing but creates much. It enriches those who receive without impoverishing those who give. It happens in a flash, and the memory of it sometimes lasts forever. None are so rich they can get along without it, and none so poor but are richer for its benefits. It creates happiness in the home, fosters goodwill in a business, and is the countersign of friends. It is rest to the weary, daylight to the discouraged, sunshine to the sad, and nature's best antidote for trouble. Yet it cannot be bought, begged, borrowed, or stolen, for it is something that is no earthly good to anybody till it is given away. And if in the last minute rush of Christmas buying, some of our salespeople should be too tired to give you a smile, may we ask you to leave one of yours, for nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give." So principle number 2 is to smile. And that's going to conclude the commentary for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you also listened to the audio reading that I did earlier for this chapter. Chapter 5, the principle 2, to smile. Thank you.